Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Nothing Zilch Nada. We're your hosts, Xavier Dean,
And Jacob Green.
and this week we have decided it was my topic just because last week, when it would have been my topic, it was instead an audience picked topic. And going back to, I want to say, our little hiking episode from from our last season, we had discussed things that Jake and I had created, like written and made through poems or stories. And
Mhm.
later on down the line, Jake had told us some of his stories. So now I figured it's my turn, and I would
Mhm.
talk about the types of stories that I would have written back in my senior year of high school, which were acrostic poems, or at the very least, acrostic stories, because I don't really see them as poems. There was just one problem with that. I don't have any of my original poems. Yes, thank you, Jake, for the reaction. So, anyway, I had initially put them all on a Wix blog site that I had made. It was completely free. I had it where there was 365 of those poems because I wanted to do one every day for a full year. Made it, barely. And there were a lot of really good ones I wish I'd still had. Like, I had one, technically, I think it was a seven-part story about this man who traveled through the underworld just to get back to his wife. But regardless of that, unfortunately, I couldn't bring those up. So instead, me being me, wanting some like a topic and wanting to discuss this, I decided to go back and make some new ones. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be discussing these acrostic stories.
Nice.
Yep. And like I said, this was something that spanned throughout my entire senior year. I normally I would make stuff that was more like horror-esque. So like think Stephen King or Edgar Allan Poe, but not fully to that same extreme. I remember I had a story about a kid who found an adopted dog, but because of where he was, that dog ended up becoming supper. Because there are certain places in the world where dogs and cats are eaten fairly regularly.
I know, but geez.
That was one of the safer ones. I had that.
What?
I made a Halloween one involving people slipping razors into candy. Just to let you know, I was not depressed in high school. That was just what came up. I would also use these to have a little, make a little commentary whenever I'd listen, or whenever I would listen to songs and a specific song title would pop up or a specific uh lyric to a song came up, I would try to make a story about those. Um, I once made an acrostic poem about the alphabet. Like I titled it A through Z, and it was each sentence started with the letters of the alphabet.
You should have called it ZA for Pokemon Legends ZA.
Well, Pokemon Legends ZA wasn't even a thought back then. I don't think.
True.
Yeah. So regardless, I can't show you any of my old stuff. Not yet. Not until I can find a way to get onto that old Wix site and hopefully find out that I didn't delete it. I feel like I may have though. And instead, we're going to look at some of the new ones, including this one that I made today. And I'm going to share the screen because while I'm writing, or because I recorded myself writing this one, and while I'm writing this, I'm going to give some social commentary Not social commentary. I'm going to give some commentary on my thought process. So let me just quickly share this. Go to here. All right. Jake, let me know. Is it just the screen?
It is just the screen.
Okay. I was afraid that it was
Just like how it's just a fish.
it is just a fish. It's just a fish and it's just a bird. All right. So to start this, I'm going to press play. You may hear some background sounds. That's because I'm writing this above the dishwasher. So actually, there might be a there. I'll turn the volume off. So the first thing I like to do when I'm making these poems is I like to think of a title. Again, generally it's a song lyric, sometimes it's something that sticks out. For this one, uh I decided to pick our channel, Nothing Zilch Nada, as our topic. After I do that, I will go down each line and I will write each beginning letter or each letter in the title so that it's all lined up.
Ah, that's interesting.
Well, this way it helps me organize what I need to write as well. I can I can look at it and say, "Hey, this is where I need to be. This is where I'm going." I like to add these little spaces in between each word. As you can see, I am pointing to each word. And I like to add little spaces because each little space I treat as a little paragraph, which sometimes I go this deep into planning, sometimes I don't. Entirely depends on how invested I am. So for this one, I figured I would do something talking about our like pre to season one episodes. So before we even started recording, and then talking about some of the things that happened during season one, that second part, Zilch, I would talk about season two, and then Nada talks about this current season, season three. And I figured I'd do it this way because arguably the longer one, is because we have a bigger story earlier on. When it comes to Zilch, we still have a good enough story, but we don't have as much to talk about with that. And then Nada, because it's still the beginning of the season. I think we've only, up to this point, we're on episode 11. So we don't have a lot to discuss there. So as you may see, we've got season one, season two, and season three. Really wish I watched this beforehand. That way I could have gone through the commentary while we're writing. So as you can tell, I'm writing right now. One of the biggest things you need to focus on is that first word because you have to make sure it lines up. So I started this by saying, and I've got the poem in front of me. That way I don't have to look at the screen. Nerds Jacob Green and Xavier Dean wanted to start a podcast. Straight to the point, no questions asked. And then from there, I expand on it. So next one starts with O. So that next word, the first word in the next sentence will be one. For one day, they were having a conversation about nothing in particular. And I think that was actually, yeah, that is actually a variation. So I happen to make two versions of this. I pre-wrote this that way while I was writing this one. I wasn't taking time and trying to go through my overall thought process. So the original poem does have some slight variations to this one. But as you see, as I'm writing, I'm going down each letter, N, O, T, so on and so forth. So I'm actually going to move ahead until I have this full paragraph written.
Oh, you're a pretty fast writer.
Oh, I'm fastest. All right, so for those of you who can't read this, I'm going to read this out loud. That way you can hear it overall. So, nerds Jacob Green and Xavier Dean wanted to start a podcast. One day, they were having a deep conversation about nothing in particular, and I just realized I'm reading the other one. One day, they were having a conversation of nothing in particular. Their coworkers had mentioned that they should start recording their convos. However, they had neither the time nor the resources to run one. It didn't help that they didn't live in the same area to record in person. Not long after they began, they started running into problems. Given the circumstances, they decided to temporarily stop their production, which I think is a perfect sum up of our first season. Because we had this idea of wanting to start a podcast a long time ago, and we didn't really jump on it until two of our coworkers who were listening in on a conversation, and I don't remember what this conversation was about.
I don't remember either.
I can tell you
Uh,
what time the conversation was taking place, but I can't tell you anything about what our conversation was about.
all I remember was our coworkers looking at us and being like, "What the heck are they talking about?"
Exactly. So then we started that podcast. We had that three topic layout, longer videos lasting almost 2, maybe 3 hours. Problem is with our schedule, that doesn't always work out. Plus, we had a lot of personal things going on the like, on our end that kind of forced us to stop. So, like I said, I wrote that first paragraph. Now we got to work on the second paragraph. And you want to know the worst part about that second paragraph?
The length.
No, the letter
Oh,
Z.
the Z.
Z. So that is one of the biggest problems when it comes to writing these poems. It's those letters that don't have a lot of good words for starting a sentence. Letter,
Like the letter X.
yes, like X, Z. There was another one. V's somewhat hard, but I can get away with that sometimes. Uh, Q's a lot easier than you would think. Like I said, I'd say the hardest ones are Z or X. Luckily, I'm a teacher. I read the dictionary twice, all the way through when I was young, and I cheated and used Google to figure out a good word to start off a sentence. So I went with the word zooming.
Zoomy.
Yep, for zooming ahead, which I use as a way to transition from where we left off to when we eventually came back, and I continued our thing there, or I continued my story there. Now I'm going to quickly write this. Da, 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 da. All right. Now, I ran into two problems at this point. First one, technically, this is the third story I wrote today, so my hand was starting to cramp up a bit, which is why they're still over 2 minutes, and I only have four sentences to write. Now, just like last one, I'm going to read through this paragraph. Zooming ahead, they decided to come back and record more episodes. It took planning, updating, and a crazy lady at a disc golf course. Leaving behind the longer three-topic format, they opted for shorter one-topic videos. Common topics became Pokemon rankings, lists, and a yearly Halloween episode. Having made these changes, they were able to continue recording every week. So, like I said, just continue with the timeline. And the whole crazy layout disc golf course was true because when we recorded that first episode, we weren't actually planning on recording that day, but it was still something that kickstarted our second season and kickstarted our return to Nothing Zilch. So now I write my last paragraph, season 3. And this is where it starts getting iffy because now I'm realizing A, ow, my arm is hurting and my hand is hurting. But also, there is less sentences to try to wrap everything up. Where a lot of stories, you have your range of what sentences you can and can't write. This one, I only have four sentences, and they have to start with N, A, D, and A. But I went through, made sure to get all of those to hopefully pretty much summarize season three. And this is the final product. Now, I already read one and two, so now I'm going to read paragraph three. Now they are on their third season and making more advancements. Although they don't have a large audience, they still have fun. Doesn't matter the topic, they promote healthy conversations and agreeing to disagree. After all, that's why they started the podcast in the first place, which again is one of our big things. If you notice, whenever we have a debate, regardless of where our view is, it's always, you know, we want to spread that you can have healthy conversations without needing to get into a full-blown argument. There is a way to agree to disagree. Also, yes, if you look, you can see my socks, and they are socks with cows on them. Further up in the leg, you'll see that one of the cows on my sock is being abducted by aliens. Because I'm a nerd, that stuff happens. So, like I said, that was my most recent story that I wrote. It was wrote specifically for this episode. Now, I have two more that I ended up writing. So, with what time it is, I feel like I have enough time to go through and read each of those. I wish I could share the screen with those, but I handwrite everything. So, maybe I'll throw them in a document and put them in the description below, and that document will keep updating as I write more of these. So, I try to make some stories with my variations. Something a little darker, a little more horror-esque, and something based a little more around a song lyric or song title, as well as being something a little more lighthearted. Because I know the horror stories, which is really hard to say in the Midwest, uh, those have a specific group of people that like them. Not everyone likes them. So this first story I ended up writing. Now, I mentioned the Midwest for a specific reason. The week that we were recording this, we had massive storms. There were tornadoes, hail, heavy rains, and I think in our area we had we had a tornado go by. We had sirens in town. All of us had to rush down to the basement. And while we were in the basement, because I wanted to preserve my battery in case we ran out of power and I needed to contact people or get to work with what little battery I had on my phone, I decided I'd rewrite this.
Hell yeah.
Also happens to be where I got the idea for this topic because I'm like, hey, I remember liking doing this. I still like doing this. I want this. I want to discuss this. So this story is called The Monster in the Night. Again, a little horror-esque, and it adds a little bit of social commentary just in small parts of it. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. I'm sure there's a lot of things I could have done better, but this is The Monster in the Night. There is a story about a monster hiding in the night. Hiding in the darkness, they prey on the weak, the unloved, or the lonely. Every soul they take frees the world of the inferior people. Most assume the monster has evil intent, and they may be right. Others believe this monster is an angel brought down to save. No one knows the monster's agenda, nor do they know its appearance. Some imagine a hideous beast with pearly white teeth and moth-like wings. Then there are those who believe it takes a more humanoid look. Even still, others believe it's no monster, only imagination and dream. Real or not, this monster haunts reality with a malevolent hand. I don't believe in this monster, nor no, I do not. No, I believe it isn't a monster, but many more. There is a monster in all of us, one in all shapes and sizes. Hell's demons and heaven's angels all rolled into one mortal. Everyone has them, and most live their lives giving in to their wills. Now you see, there is more to the monster than we all can see. I wish you would live through the night and read the story. God have mercy on my soul, for my monster takes control. Hope I kill you fast, or else your agony becomes intoxicating. This is the monster in the night, and the end of your life. Oh, and say that again. The audio didn't catch it.
Oh,
So, again, not saying I'm in a dark place, but considering I read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe, I read a lot of Stephen King.
I need to get back to reading Edgar Allan Poe. I really do like his poetry style in
Hmm.
particular. And I've read a couple of his stuff back in high school. I haven't gone through like every single poem that he wrote, but one of these days I should attempt to, just read like one each day or something.
Honestly, if you need help with that, I've got one book that's a handful of his short stories, which include The Cask of Amontillado and The Mask of the Red Death. Or if you want, I have his complete collection somewhere in this room.
I will consider those options when I'm ready.
Yep. Now, again, that was pretty much the bulk of what I made. I would make stuff like that, talking about monsters, creatures of the night. Sometimes I would talk about like subverting expectations, where someone who you would initially deem as nice and friendly ends up becoming the true monster.
Mhm.
And I know the
So,
ending kind of took a dark turn, but at the same time, you know, I had to end it somehow.
so your next poem is going to be about Batman.
Uh, no, no.
But you said creatures of the night.
I know. But this is, like I said, I wanted to also provide a story that was a little more lighthearted, and again, focusing on a song lyric or a song title. And plus, it helped that I was working. Well, I was on my lunch when I made this. So,
Um,
yes.
if you ever made a Batman poem, you should do it in the Dark Knight voice as you're writing it or reading it.
The city, my city, Gotham City, is riddled with crime, heinous villains.
It's riddled with crime.
Well,
Crime that
great,
is time to pay.
great. Now you're giving me ideas. All right, so this last story I'm gonna read, because it's the last one I have right now.
Mhm.
Again, takes on a little more of a lighthearted tone. It's called New School Shivers. There's three reasons I made this. First, I'm a teacher, so something school related kind of fits. Second, I was at a school when I made this. Again, it was during my lunch break, so I could do whatever during that time. I decided I would write this while eating. And third is because of the title. So, New School Shivers isn't just the title of the story, it's also the title of a song by a group called Smith and Myers, which is a subgroup of my favorite band, Shinedown. One of these days, I want to discuss Shinedown, but that's on a different day. So, with that, let's take a listen. New school. New schools can be scary, especially for Sammy. Even though everyone is changing schools, Sammy still held fear. What if the new school was harder, the teachers meaner, the homework bigger? Sammy was sweating as the bus dropped him off at the school. Children all rushed out, excited for this new chapter in their lives. However, Sammy waited until everyone else left, prolonging his fate. Once everyone else left, Sammy had no choice but to get up and leave. Outside, the fear overcame him, and he broke down in front of the school. Little Sammy wasn't ready to become a fifth grader and almost a teen. Suddenly, Sammy felt a warm, caring presence standing beside him. His new teacher, Miss Hart, had gone outside to check if he was okay. It took some time, but Sammy eventually calmed down and came inside. Very soon, he was sitting in his class, and he started enjoying himself. Everything his teacher gave him was something he learned in fourth grade. Right up to the final bell, he realized all of his fear was for nothing. Sammy couldn't wait to come back to his new school tomorrow. There you go. Again, something a little lighthearted, has a good, like a feel good feeling.
Yeah.
No death. Well, that's always a positive. So, now, there was another reason I wanted to talk about these today.
Mm.
As you may have heard me say before, this was something that I enjoyed myself with in high school, specifically my senior year. And part of the reason I stopped doing this was because COVID hit and there was a little bit of a decrease when it came to my interests. It's why I slowed down with my running. I spent more time working and just kind of just being there instead of doing what I wanted. And with recent events, I say recent, but it was more like events from November to now. With the amount of time I have, I want to take this time to go back to doing things that I used to like to see if I still enjoy doing them. And my plan is eventually to go back and recreate that website, the blog, where I have all of my acrostic stories. Hopefully, I still have all of the stories from before. That way, I don't have to, write, as regularly, and I can focus more on just writing when I have inspiration. But like I said, I want to do this fairly regularly. I want to try once I get to a certain point to set up a website. As of right now, while there's only a few, I am planning on setting up a Google Doc with all of the stories in them. I'm going to post it in the description below. Every so often, depending on what's going on, I may reintroduce, or not reintroduce, but replace uh the webs the Google Doc or maybe even the website in the description. That way you can read all of my new content from there. Just a little something extra. Jake, are you fine with that?
Yeah, perfectly fine with it. With the way that you talked about the first poem, I haven't really structured a poem like that before. So if I ever decided to go back into doing poetry, which is always a consideration of mine,
Mhm.
you know, maybe I'll try doing that and see how that'll work out.
Hmm. Like I said, this was just, I don't know what kickstarted it, but senior year of high school, I started doing this. I wouldn't say I was good at it, but I had a lot of creative ideas. There was one I made, technically, it had two titles, and not only was the first sentence in each line, no, not first sentence, first word in each line matching the first title, but at the end of the sentence, that last letter matched the second title, which sucked more than trying to deal with Z's and X's because now you're trying to get endings as well as beginnings. But with that, that is all I had for this topic. Thank you all for listening. Again, this is just something light. Figured I haven't done a story time in a long time. This is something that would work really well with it. And if you have any topics that you would like for us to discuss in a later episode, feel free to put it in the comments below. And with that, hope you have a wonderful night. My name is Xavier Dean.
Green.
We're wishing you a wonderful night. Stay safe. I'm going to make sure Jake's safe after this. And we're wishing you a wonderful night. This city, my city, Gotham City, is riddled with crime. Heinous two-faced criminals who choose to corrupt everyone, including the children, cats, women, and men, live in fear. Darkness has become the city's bane, but also my ally. As criminals be robbing, gangstas be killing, I'll be watching, ready to strike the jokers who pollute the city. Killing these crocs isn't an option. They need to be brought to justice. Know that I am not just a man in a bat suit. No, I'm not a boy dressed as a penguin spending blood money. I am the night. I am vengeance. I am Gotham's sole protector, getting rid of the poisonous Ivy Leagues and the rotten crooks. Hear my words as they run chills down your spine. The Batman is out tonight. Enemies, beware. And that's the Batman for you, or the Dark for you. Hope you all have a wonderful night.